And hello, welcome to this video again. Yeah, where we last left off with our sandbox 2 code was that, okay, if I put the createTime.H and then also enable the set root directory, okay, sandbox2.c, if we enable these two, okay, we enable this set root case list and createTime.H, we will be able to start running our OpenFOAM code. But of course, right, now it's not quite an OpenFOAM code, it's just our own code. And you can see that, okay, we did our math really nicely, okay, including the roots part and everything. So, and then the other part, it will start printing out all of these, all of this. And then it will complain that there's no control dictionary. Okay, so I took the liberty of making a template cases folder, and of course there's the cavity folder right here with zero constant and system with my own clean and run codes. So we can just copy the system control dict there, and we don't copy anything else. All right, we don't copy anything else. Oops, I changed directory too fast. Okay, so let's go to sandbox 2, and let's copy the control dictionary. Okay, so let's go up 2 levels, template, cavity, system folder. We'll just put it here. Okay, I forgot the AR. Okay, so let's list things down, and we see our system here. What's inside our system? There's block mesh dict, control dict, every schemes, every solutions, PDR mesh control dict. Let's remove everything except for control dict. Okay, so you'll know that this is the only file you actually need. This pertains to only control dictionary. So let's run sandbox 2 again, and we can see, okay, it starts printing out some things for us. Very useful. Okay, so it says starting time loop. Then it's time 005, time 001, blah, blah, blah. It runs pretty quickly, and it runs all the way up to time 0.5. Okay, so now this is running as it should. If you want to clean this up, just use foam clean tutorials. This is a bash script that just cleans up all the time directories nicely for you without deleting anything else. So that's basically sort of your generic all clean file. Okay, so this is just for you to know. Of course, there's a foam run tutorials as well, but it will run something else rather than sandbox. Okay, so foam run tutorial. Okay, so you'll run block mesh and ICO hit foam, and both of them will have some error. Okay, so I'm not going to bother reading those because those are definitely errors. So just forget it. Okay. Right. So yeah, just foam clean tutorials is something very useful. Okay, so let's run this again. Sandbox 2, and we'll see all of these codes here. Now let's just play around with the sandbox 2 files. Foam clean tutorials. Okay, sandbox2.c. What can we do? I'm going to start removing some lines of code just to see what happens. Okay. So for example, let me remove this out, and we can remove this out. So that's basically removing all the print lines. Okay. Basically, there should not be any code, anything that's being printed as long as we run this code. Okay, we only see this execution time and clock time. Okay, so what's actually going on here? Oops. Oh, that's a very short binary file. Okay, let's see. Okay, there are only two things over here. One is the runtime write, one is runtime print execution time. So if we see this part, okay, we see this execution time and clock time. All of this is 0. We can roughly guess what this line of code here is doing. This print execution time. So it's actually giving us the execution time and actual clock time of the code. Now if I remove this thing as well, and I wmake this thing, And of course, the next thing I need to do is to actually get rid of all the time directories, foam clean tutorials. All right, and we run sandbox2. Sandbox2. We just see this thing called createTime here. All right, so what is the value of this boolean? Okay, we discussed before that this runtime write is actually a boolean. So let's actually get this to return something. Okay, so let's see info runtime.write. Okay, at end line. Let's see whether we can print this out. I don't know whether it'll work, but we can wmake. If there's something wrong, the compiler will complain. Okay, so the compiler didn't complain, so it's really a boolean. Okay, so let's do foam clean tutorials. And we can go and look at sandbox.c, sandbox2.c. And yeah. Alright, I forgot to run the case. Let's run sandbox2. So you can see we have a string of zeros and ones. Strings of zeros and ones. Okay, so what's going on here? Okay, remember in our cavity case, we only write time folders every 0.5 seconds or 0.1 seconds. I'm sorry. Every 0.1 seconds, we actually do this writing. Okay, so we only write for 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and 0.5. If we actually ls one of these files, we will see that there's a uniform folder inside there. Okay, so we can see there's a function objects and a time directory. Okay. Okay, and we can actually open uniform blah 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 and time. So we'll see the time value, the name, index delta t, and delta t naught. Okay. Let me clean this up. And let me explain what just happened. Let's run sandbox2 again. So we see just lines of zeros and ones. So basically why is there so many 0 and 1s? Because we are actually running the while loop many times. But not all of those while loops should result in us writing a new time directory. Okay, if we look at our system and control dictionary, we are able to control this because of this thing called write interval. So if I change this write interval to 2, we should have a different pattern. That means once every 2 while loops we will start writing. So if runtime write is turned on, then we will have the correct, how do you say? If this is turned to 2, we should have alternating values of zeros and ones. So let's do foam clean tutorials. And let's run sandbox2 again. So you can see now all of these are now zeros and ones. Meaning to say every other time step is I want to turn my switch for writing a time directory on. And you can see there's so many time directories here. So every other time step, okay, I want to switch this control for writing on. So this runtime write is basically for us to see, okay, or at least for your code to see, do you want to start writing a time directory or not? And that is controlled by your system control dict. Okay. Okay, so at least now we know what this is supposed to do. I'm not going to mess around too much with this anymore. Okay, so foam clean tutorials. And okay, let's admire the work of the sandbox2. All right. And yeah, so let's see. Let's turn some of the other things back on and see what happens. I want now to turn my starting time loop and ending. So this is just the basic running of the time. Okay, so I'm only going to introduce bits of the code at one time. So we just have a basic create time kind of a loop, a while loop that is determined by your control dictionary. Okay, all of these things are just commented out for simplicity, so it doesn't really over confuse you. Okay, so let's do one more. We will do the print execution time since we know what it does. Okay, so now from clean tutorials, and we'll wmake our sandbox again, and this should this should this should help us to see. Okay, every time since we had a write interval of 20, that means every 20 time steps, then you kind of have one time of writing. Okay, then it becomes 0 again. Every 20 time steps we have 1, 0 again. Every 20 time steps 1. Okay. Yeah. Now, okay. So what else can we do? Okay. So I've quickly gone to the Time.H directory on the left side. The what do you call that? The Time.H directory. This will be under OpenFOAM. Okay. Go to your source. Go to OpenFOAM, and then go to this part called DB, and then we go to time. Okay, so this is where all your time.h functions are. You can go to time.h and see what are the member functions. Okay, so hopefully with our understanding of how runtime is being done, okay, runtime is actually an object. Okay, runtime is actually an object which is an instance of the time class. Okay, some of the functions inside the time class would have included this loop thing over here, which we saw just now. Okay, we saw just now in our sandbox2. Oops, sandbox2.c. Okay, we see that this is actually a function that returns a boolean. It does not always return a boolean of 1 or 0, but it depends on, there are some functions there which helps to see, where we are. I mean, it will return a 1 or 0 depending on whether you want to write a new time directory. Okay, so that's one way of learning. Maybe not just read the documentation, but actually go and play with the code and see what happens. So let's see some of the one other function. Okay, of course you can use whatever function you want, but let's just return one other function. Okay, let's see, public members. Okay, member functions. Okay, so for example, if I want to return this path function, so let's try to invoke this path function. Okay, invoke the path function using the info. Okay, now of course, according to the coding style guide, you definitely you probably want to follow this, of course, but I'm just going to use my own style guide for the time being. Okay, all right, so I'm going to call use the runtime object. I'm going to call the path function, and let's see whether this actually returns us the path of wherever we are. Okay, so I'm going to foam clean tutorials again, and let's do sandbox, wmake the sandbox. Okay, looks like everything's in order, and let's see what it does. Okay, we see that the path is returned. This is where my path for this OpenFOAM thing is. So we can see the we can look at some of these functions here and basically use it to return some bits of data that's relevant to us. For example, you see run media blah blah blah. That's my file directory, and you can see the case directory is exactly the same as here, sandbox2. Okay, so yeah, I think that's about it. This should at least make you more familiar with the time functions. Nothing really too much to understand here, unless you want to dig all the way in. dig deep into this time directory and find out what's going on. Okay, so basically, yeah, what this thing is, we have a runtime.loop boolean. Okay, we can of course return this. We have a runtime.write boolean and runtime.path. Well, it's a string which we can also return. Okay, so remember the object runtime is being declared in createTime.H. Of course, to set your root case directory so that OpenFOAM can start reading, that's in set root case list.h. Okay, so this bit actually just lets us know, okay, where is this what these time functions do. Okay, we don't really like fully understand every single bit of the C++ code, but at least we know roughly by invoking these lines of code what roughly they do. Okay, so that's all I have for you. I will see you again next time. As usual, upload this to GitHub. Foam clean tutorials. Okay, and I'll leave the system folder here just for experimentation purposes. Okay, so all right, I'll see you again.